Amen. Peace and blessings. Excited to be with you guys tonight. Okay, my name is Arnold Austin. Real quick, what I want to do is I want to go over some. I've been going over the topic of loyalty for the last, several days throughout this week, and so what I'm doing is doing an extensive, uh, an extensive look into that subject and how it affects us and how we can see it and how it's played out in our lives and played out by a lot of the different people around us. I appreciate everybody that's going to tune in. Appreciate the taps, like, shares, and everything else that goes on. So when you look at loyalty, the statement that often comes back, I go back to, is the statement that loyalty is a choice. Someone being loyal to you is a choice. That's why if someone is unfaithful to you, it goes back to, again, a choice. It has nothing to do with anyone else except for a decision, or lack thereof, or lack of commitment that was in that particular individual. And so at some point, we have to allow individuals to take responsibility for their actions. You'll see some coaches and some people that deal with relationships online, and they're always pointing the blame to one side or another. But the bottom line, the blame is the person that made a verbal confirmation or commitment or a vow out of their mouth. And then later on, they decided to not fulfill their vow. They decided not to fulfill the words of their mouth. They decided to not do the things that they were talking about, because it's easy to talk about things. And I mentioned this the first day that I taught this. It's easy to talk about things, especially when you're first starting something. It's easy to say, I'm going to get on live every day and teach. It's easy to say, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to get up 5 in the morning and go to the gym. It's easy to say, I'm going to change my diet. It's easy to say, I'm going to be faithful to this person. I'm going to love them and be kind and cherish them and all this. So it's easy to say all of those things. Those things are easy to say. But after those things are said, then there has to be a commitment to fulfilling the thing that you said. If you want to be a person that your word is your bond. In other words, that your word means something, that you keep your word to the people around you. And so one of the most important areas, or one of the areas that I lean on and I talk about the most, is our relationships, our intimate relationships. The person that you decided you met, because if you can imagine with me, there was one day that you were out somewhere, whether it was out with some of your friends or you were out alone, and someone approached you, or someone approached you online, or someone approached you in some way, shape, or form, whether you were in college, school, or someone that you worked with. It was somebody somewhere that saw you, that approached you. And when they approached you, you were mutually attracted to this person as well. And so in the process of you both being attracted to each other, you had conversations. And so in the process of both of you having conversations, there was some kind of a spark between you, based upon there being a mutual attraction between the two of you. And so because of the mutual attraction, what ended up happening is you started dating this person, you started pursuing each other. And then in the process of you pursuing each other, you made certain verbal commitments. I made certain verbal commitments. It's part of the way that it goes. We just make these verbal commitments with people over time, based upon feeling like this is the right thing to do, based upon believing that this is the right thing. This is the next step that I should make. And sometimes those next steps are just made based upon our desires. And just because we have a desire for something does not mean it's in alignment with our life or our path or our life purpose or anything else. It could be something that we just desire or something that we just want. And so when you look at all of this, again, everything that when we're talking about loyalty requires a level of consistency, but it also requires a level of transparency. And so I talked about the four bases, or the four roots, which are important for there to be some kind of sustainability or security within a relationship. And part of it is transparency and truth, but also loyal and honest. Those are four building blocks that should be part of your relationships. And so when I initially talked about this, I was talking about it again from the place of our relationships, the people that you're meeting, the people that you're saying that you love, the people that, and of course this spills over into our family. and our friends and the organizations that we're involved with, because that was the part that I dealt with last night, where I was talking about areas where we are loyal. We're loyal to certain groups that we're involved with, whether it's a church group, whether it's a local community group, whether it's a religious group, spiritual group, martial, any group that we're involved with. There's generally a certain level of loyalty to that group if you're receiving something from that group. And so I can remember when I was because I was a part of a church organization for a long time, over 30 some years. And being a part of that group, part of what I did as part of that group was I invested everything I had, my time, my money, my energies. I volunteered, my efforts, I just gave of myself to the group because it was part of me. It was part of my commitment that I felt was needed to be, because I wanted to kind of get back, because I was I am a business owner, and I was a business owner at that time. And so I had the resources. And so I wanted to establish things for other young people that were coming behind me, to kind of encourage them, to let them know, hey, you can do certain things. Doesn't matter if you're not able to be an athlete, or you don't have certain, parents with certain incomes, or you don't have a handout or something that was given to you from birth. None of that stuff matters. Do you have the mental fortitude to believe that you can get through these this briar patch of difficulties? Do you believe that you can fight through all of the traps and snares and all the stumbling blocks and just find your way? Because that's part of what it's going to take. Good evening. Good evening. That's part of what it's going to take. It's going to take having a fighter's mindset, where you're not going to quit. You're going to figure it out. You're going to understand that, yes, everything has a time and season. And so that's part of loyalty, where my mind is going to tonight, is understanding that when you plant that seed, when you plant that initial seed of what you want to do, the exciting part is that day that you say, I want to do one thing or another. I want to go to the gym. I want to eat a certain way. I want to be a vegan. I want to get married. I want to, whatever you're saying. The initial day when you say that, like I've said before, is that's the day. It's so exciting. And a lot of times when we make decisions based upon, that initial excitement, we don't really look at the full spectrum. There's a full spectrum of commitments that we can't see that are going to be part of this process. It's going to be part of it. And we can't necessarily see it because, we're looking at the simplicity. I mean, I'm saying we, but I'm saying that's what I did in the past. Even when I would start companies, I would look at the simplicity of, oh, if I do 20 houses a year, I'll make X, Y, and Z. I looked at the simplicity of that. But with that simplicity, it's not showing you all of the challenges that are going to come, or being a part of you fulfilling that 20, or that doing the 10, or doing the 5, or doing whatever else you're going to do. Because it's easy to frame in our mind and minimize something and make it smaller than what it is. But then once you actually start doing it, that's when you're going to be tested on the level of commitment and loyalty that you have towards what you said or what you believe that you're supposed to do. And so that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where your testing and your true belief is going to be laid before the fire. And that's when you're going to have to stand, and you have to fight that good fight, and you have to be able to hold on and just believe, and just know that somehow, that some way, that there is some opportunity or something, that is a door that is open. And because it's open, there's no man that can shut it. And so the first thing that many of us, I would suggest that you look at, is that look at you being loyal to yourself. And that might sound selfish, but many individuals that follow me, and I said this often, many people that follow me and that end up getting part of the coaching and different things that I do, are people that have really good hearts, because they're following after me, and something about my heart attracts them. And it's not like a physical attraction, but it's a heart attraction, where they see my heart. And so because they can see your heart, they're generally going to be like you. It's going to be a mutual thing. And so because they have good hearts, many times they have to be careful, because as they're out here and they're meeting people, many individuals that you meet in society today, they don't have good hearts. And that's a harsh statement, and it's a statement that many would be offended about. But the bottom line is, it does not matter if they're offended. It's true. Many people that you meet in society, they don't care about other people. They don't even consider other people. Their only agenda is themselves. And if you've lived any number of years, you've ran into them. And usually they're disguised. And you know how they're disguised? Because they got clothes on and they wear shoes. So that's how they're disguised. They're just people. And they're not really disguised. I'm just trying to throw some things out there. But they're just people. They're everyday people that are walking around you. And the disguise is that there is no disguise. They're people. They're people that talk. They're people that walk. They're people that are handsome. They're people that are not so handsome. They're people that are thin. They're people that are not so thin. They're people that come in all shapes and sizes and all races and all whatever. But the bottom line is you have to be able to see their heart. If you are a loyal person, your heart will be tested. You will be tested. You will meet someone that you're going to love, that you're going to fall for. And in the process of you falling for this person, they're not going to be loyal to you. And so because they're not going to be loyal to you, you will be hurt. If you are loyal to someone that does not see the massive amount of investment that you've given them by being loyal and faithful to them, they're going to use that because of the lack of capacity that they have to be authentic and genuine. And they're going to hurt you. They're going to break your heart. This is why it's important that when you're dating people and you're meeting people, that you are not rushing. I say this over and over again, that you're not rushing, that you're taking your time when you're meeting these people. The people that are in a rush, they're in a rush for a reason, because they got some other agenda, something else that they're trying to do. And I'm saying they're in a rush as far as trying to get you to commit to them and trying to get you to marry them. I'm saying rush in that form, in that mannerism. They're trying to get you to do something that y'all aren't ready to do because you haven't gone through enough to even know that if you two are even qualified to be with each other. Because when I look back on my relationships, most of them were it was just chemistry, mutually attracted to the person, like their body, and the conversation was cool because we were around the same age. And but the problem with that is that if you spend any amount of years with that person, if one of you is growing and the other one isn't, then there's going to be a divide that's going to take place based upon two people growing in two different directions because you really weren't aligned in the first place. This is why I use the example often and over again about if you are a business person or a person that is an entrepreneurial mindset, you cannot be with a person that's not most times, because they won't understand your mindset. They won't understand your work ethic and why you're working so much and why you're going to go do this. And there's always headaches behind it. So again, the first thing is finding a place of loyalty to yourself. It's okay. Give yourself permission to say, you know what, it's okay for me to be loyal to myself. It's okay for me to consider myself because, not only am I supposed to love my neighbor, but I'm supposed to love myself. I'm supposed to consider myself because it's not about everybody else. It's about, first of all, you got to look at yourself, consider yourself, but also consider the person that you're with, your partner. And so you got to understand, what does that look like? What does that look like to be loyal to yourself? And I just kind of described it. It looks like you considering yourself in everything that you're doing. I can look back over my life, and even in my company, especially when I was starting out, I would give people things and do things for people. And then when the people wouldn't be grateful, then I would be pissed. I would be mad about it or offended about it. And I'll be complaining about it. But the whole time, they asked me to do it, but because I did not set a boundary and consider myself in that time frame, because I was going based upon biblical principles. Oh, turn the other cheek. Oh, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Oh, give and it shall be given back to you, and whatever it was. I don't even at that time. I don't even know what I was. It could have been any number of things. But the point that I'm trying to make is, I would do things based upon spiritual principles. But some of the people that I was giving things to, they were not good people. So everybody that you're giving to isn't a person that qualifies to receive something from us, because some people aren't here as part of the process of helping and doing and being a blessing to other people. Some people are here as takers and destroyers and hurters, and their only agenda is to hurt and harm other people. And they use all of their charisma and their looks and their this and their that. Yeah. I understand that, Latai. Yeah, and so they use all of the things that should be a benefit and should be a plus as a means to try to hurt and harm and destroy other people. And so you can't continually do things and consciously go out and hurt and harm other people and don't think that you're not going to pay for that. And then you got to understand that when you look at the psychiatrists and psychotherapists, they have categories that they put people in that intentionally go out and harm other people. And so I wouldn't want to be classified in those areas because you're leaning towards sociopath and psychopaths, and because they're the type of individuals that do things to other people and they don't care how it affects someone else. They don't care how they're going to be hurt and what the outcome will be. Their only agenda is to get what they want. And so if that means stepping on other people and not considering other people and doing things that would harm other people, they don't care. They don't care. I knew a person that had a business, and this business, another person was running this business for this individual full time in another country. And this person would get on the phone, the person that quote unquote owned the business. This person would get on the phone with this person and cuss them out and talk to them like they were a pile of dog feces if they did something wrong. Instead of being respectful and understanding and kind and all these things. So I saw people, I've seen the hardness and the callousness of people, where their mindset isn't about another person. This person sacrificed for this other individual when they started that company because they were doing things and not even getting paid. And so once the business was up and running, if everything wasn't done to work for the person that started the business, but that wasn't even in that country, but was in somewhere else, then they're acting insane and they're screaming and they're cussing and they're doing all these things, attacking this person verbally and saying all these things are going to happen in their lives. And they don't see how wicked and deceptive and destructive that is because of how damaged their mind is based upon the environment that they came from. And so when I saw this about this person, I was like, I can't have this person nowhere near my life, because if any person that you have connected to your life, if they are connected, especially if there's somebody that's connected, I'll say, you're going to be a partaker of what that person is getting into their lives because you are directly connected to that person. This is why who you're going to match up with, who you're going to love, who you're going to be in a relationship with is more than just having a physical attraction to a person. Because what they're doing and what they do, you're going to receive the rewards or the punishment for what they're doing. So if they're out there doing things to other people and doing it to numerous people and using different techniques to do these things, you're going to be a partaker of that hurt, of that suffering. And if they're doing it to them, why wouldn't they do it to you? Because they're showing you who they are. They're showing you that they're brute in their mindset and in their thoughts. You can create loyalty just by being committed, making the decision that I am committed. I am committed. If you're committed to that relationship, and I talked about this yesterday, and I'm almost done. I just wanted to share a couple of things because I want to get in the habit of getting on here pretty much most nights, and just sharing something for 15 minutes or so, unless you have questions. And kind of tonight was just an overview. That's why I'm not real hyped up, and plus I'm a little whatever. But yeah, it's and so first is creating loyalty by being committed. Your commitments to, again, yourself, but also your commitments to the things that you're saying that you're going to do. It was frowned upon when you got involved with a relationship or did business with a person back in the day. If you spoke your word or said that you were going to do something and you did not keep your word, that's why it's talked about in certain holy books that if it's better to not make a vow than to make a vow and not keep it. If you make a vow, if you say that you're going to do something, if you say that this is what you want to do, first of all, it's beneficial to you first because what it allows you to do, that's right, your word is your bond. What it allows you to do is it allows you to start to continue to believe in yourself and to have faith in yourself and to build your confidence within yourself. You being faithful to the words that you say is part of you building the confidence that you need in yourself, which so many people need that are coming through healing, that have been in these relationships where people have been disloyal. One of the biggest parts of that is that individual rebuilding themselves, rebuilding their confidence. And that's done through being loyal to the words that you say. You saying that I'm going to get up every morning, I'm going to do my breathing techniques, I'm going to ground, I'm going to do all these different, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to start eating different, I'm going to start getting around different groups of people, I'm going to stay part of a community, I'm going to stay plugged in, I'm going to read certain books, I'm going to do all these things are part of the process of you staying plugged into the environment that's going to get you and keep you in a place of growing and developing, growing and developing, growing and developing. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for the likes. And good evening. And so the part of what I'm going to share with, the part of what I'm sharing with, I thank y'all for the taps and likes and shares. Appreciate that. And so part of it is learning to be committed after you make the initial comment or the initial decision. Commitment isn't tested when we make the first initial statement or say the first thing or do the first initial. Commitment is tested and proven by you going through the process and you doing the thing that needs to be done when it's not convenient, when you don't want to, when you don't feel like it, but you do it anyway. And then what that does is it builds a level of confidence in you where you know that you know that you know that there's nothing that you can't do. You can't do it. There's nothing that you can't do. You know? And so I'm gonna give you a couple things real quick. I talked about this yesterday. I'll give you a couple things I wrote, or two things I wrote down real quick. Is that when you look at loyalty, one of the things with loyalty is that there's times when your loyalty is going to be tested in a way where it's going to be your loyalty versus your integrity. And so when I say integrity, and I already gave you all the definition of loyalty. Loyalty is a firm, unwavering commitment to a person, a group, or an institution, showing support and consistency and effort when challenged, even when challenged. And so when you look at integrity, the definition is very similar. It's a steadfast commitment to honestly and ethically, consistently to one's values, ethics, and words. And so basically what's going on is there's times when you're going to be tested as far as there's things that are going to come up that are going to be not in alignment with where you are. What you have set up as far as that you're loyal to might not align with your of something that's part of the integrity of who you are as a person. Because an example of that would be, for instance, your boundaries. You know, when you're first meeting a person, one of the things that kind of slides under the rug is if you haven't been steadfast and you haven't been upfront about your boundaries, figuring out the things that you find, disrespectful, or that you see that there are things that you don't want to experience in a relationship. There are things that you want to they're just things that you consider disrespectful, so because boundaries are important. But what happens many times is when you're first meeting someone, most people, most of us are on our best behavior. So we say all the right things and we overlook things. And, but later on, a year later, that same thing that you overlooked is a big deal now because the newness is off, and that it's just something that chemical release is not there. It's not, everything's not the same. It's not that new loving feeling, and you're just in a different place. And so because that boundary wasn't set initially from the beginning, what happens is there isn't it's easier to violate it, I'll say. The boundary is easier to be violated because it wasn't established. You didn't have those borders set up when you came into the relationship that you expected certain things. But part of boundaries is just knowing what you want and what you don't want, knowing what you consider disrespectful versus what's not disrespectful. And anybody in here have any questions? I appreciate each and every one of y'all for tuning in. I'm not sure who's in here. I see a couple people in here. Thank y'all for tapping the screen. Basically tonight I'm just doing an overview of the stuff that I talked about the last probably 3 or 4 days on this topic of loyalty. And I appreciate each and every one of you in here. What's up, Renee? What's up, Lataya? So I appreciate y'all being in here. And loyalty is important. I feel like loyalty is important. Just like yeah, Lataya is right because manipulators, they can see your heart. And one of the ways that I found that they see your heart is because of the things that you say. Because of the things that you say, and they know in their mind that they would never even consider half the things that you say and the way that you think. So they see your heart. They know that you have a good heart. And my suggestion to you is don't hide your good heart. Just allow yourself to be in a place where you're understanding other people around you, and you're not allowing your good heart to be taken advantage of. I posted a video maybe 2 or 3 days ago, and the title was something that's concerning, like something concerning they see your good heart and they want to use it against you or something like that. I don't know. YouTube came up with the title. It was something like that. But and so it's true, but it's absolutely true. They can see you. They see you. They see you because they know who they are and what they are. And so they see you. They know that you're not the same as them. And so you just have to be really, really careful as you're meeting people. Um, and you got to be a listener. You got to hear what they're saying. If you're hearing a lot of inconsistencies in what they're saying, then that's showing that you're dealing with a person that's not stable. They're not a person that's committed in building on a solid foundation. If they're kind of wavering back and forth, and just a lot of inconsistencies. They say one thing one day and say another thing one day. They're not transparent. They hide a lot of things, and there's just people out here that's just they just know they know all the right things to say. That's the thing that I found. You I haven't really been out here like a lot of people, but the few people that I had conversations with, I've seen it. Yeah, they're double minded. I've seen it. I've noticed it. And so when you come out of a situation where you felt and you've seen a lot of manipulation and deception, you can see it. You see it pretty far away. You can see the gaslighting, the manipulation. And I don't like getting into those type of terminologies when I'm talking to somebody or dating to someone, because to me, it doesn't help you resolve. If you're having a conversation, throwing those things out does not help you resolve whatever conversation you have. What it does, it puts up roadblocks for both people, because you're calling me a manipulator, or you no, because people take those things offensively because they're considering that you're attacking them. So I found that it's better not to use any terminologies. Talk to people the way, just in normal talk, normal conversations, and tell them how you feel about what they did. Keep it simple as far as how you feel about what they did. If they don't respond to that, they're showing you, and this is what I talked about last night, that they are not a safe space. If they are not a safe space, you cannot invest in an unsafe space and think that you're going to get safety. Just like you having a house and living in inner city. I'm in Jersey. If I went to Philly, I would lock my door. Living in Philly, and your door's not locked. Really? You're asking for problems. You're asking for trouble. You gotta, lock your door, close your door. Your door's wide open. Like I'm out in the country. My door is open all night long, because it would be a bad idea for them to come in. But um, my door is open. My door is open, for years, all almost till dark, till after dark a lot of time, because of where I live. I live more in the country where houses are further apart. But if the environment is toxic, that's showing you that. That's a good question. I appreciate the question. The environment is toxic. That's a decision that you have to decide that you want to be a part of or not. Um, Many individuals are in toxic relationships, toxic environments, and they don't even realize it. That's why I made that video, and I'm not trying to. I'm not really promoting my videos, but I'm just saying I made videos on this stuff, and I talk about, there's people about being in toxic relationships, and it's not an environment generally that's set up for you to succeed and for you to grow and for you to prosper and for you to fulfill the will that you were placed on this earth, because it's going to constantly keep you in a place where you're defending yourself. It's going to keep you in a place where your nervous system will never be settled and you'll never be set. Yeah. Yeah, Latoya, you have to have an alarm with the perimeter. You have to have some type of, and I use that just that as an example, but you have to have some kind of security or something set up where you're not allowing because not every person is ethical. Some people are thieves or they want to, take advantage of people or whatever that people do. And so just to protect yourself more so than attacking anyone else. But your environment is important because your environment is part of who you are. We are our environment. We are who and what we allow around us. Um, because if you're a positive person, you're not at some point you're not going to allow a bunch of toxicity around you because there's no benefit for it. Like I listen to a guy out of Philly every now and then. He's like a motivator, like a speaker, and him and his cousin they have a show and they're funny and they're Philly guys, they're right up the street. And so I watched him, and this guy, when they were younger, he did some crimes and ended up going to jail, and went through a lot of different things. And so once he got out, part of his mission is that he's trying to tell all these other young men, you do not want to go to jail. It's not cool to go. It ain't important that you're a thug and that you're a tough guy and all. That's his message to a lot of these young guys, and they respect him because they know what he's been through and how he's transformed and transitioned his life from where it was to where it is now. I mean, him and his cousin have successful businesses, and they're doing well, I would say, according to what people would consider well. And so this is part of his success story is he was able to turn his life around based upon no longer being loyal to the streets, but finding a place of loyalty to himself. Again, everything goes back to loyalty. Are you going to be loyal to yourself first? Are you going to be loyal to the reason and the cause that you were placed on this earth? You know. So, y'all got any questions? Anything else? I appreciate your questions, Latai. Yeah. It's like I said when I talked to you before. I said I was, my goal was to start getting back on here and these things and doing some lives and, trying to be able to help people out that wanted the answer to some questions. Because I'm still trying to figure this whole how to get what I should give and what I should charge for. But, I'm trying to figure this whole thing out. I don't have all the answers, but you know, my heart is in the right place. That's the main thing is that my heart is in the right place. I want to be able to provide something where people can have a way to try to figure life out and change from where they are. That they no longer have to be so confused, like I talked about yesterday. I was in such a state of confusion after my divorce because of not knowing how to start over. I didn't know what to do next. I didn't know what to do next. And I knew that if I continued to do what I was doing, that I wasn't going to accomplish anything because I was just bumping my head against the wall. I was just throwing stuff against the wall and nothing was working because I didn't have a blueprint. I didn't have a forerunner, something that was before me, you know, you know, I didn't have something that was before me that could show me what to do or what I needed to do until I end up dreaming about my coach and then, calling her because she was a friend of my sister's, which I didn't even know her that well. I just knew her name and I seen her a couple of times, and I did not know that she was a coach. Till my sister told me that she trans because she was a hairdresser initially, and she ended up going through a bad divorce, and they had been married for 35 years or 36 years, and she lost her kids. Her kids turned on her because part of it was she never really told her story to her kids. And, when you're dealing with some of these people that are master manipulators, they get a story out. They always have a story out there out in advance before you say anything or before you even think of saying anything, because they have to protect their egos. They have to protect their precious little, the way people see them, because everything is to them is about how people see them. How people see them. That's very important to them. Making sure that people respect them and see them as someone that's honorable in this, but the whole time they're not, because evidently he was cheating, and because he cheated, she's like, oh, I'm not staying in this relationship. And so because she was Catholic, her church turned, people in the church turned on her, and she just went through a lot of very, very hurtful things, especially for a woman. Can you imagine as a woman losing your kids to lies? I mean, her son refused to talk to her almost up until the time he was about to get married. But the girl that he was about to marry, she told him, she said, if you don't get things straightened out with your mom, I will not marry you. And so he ended up calling his mom, and they ended up having conversations and, and getting something. And then the information ended up starting to come out about what their dad actually did. But so his hard feelings was against his mom, but the whole time his dad was the cause of the divorce. His dad was the one that was not loyal to the relationship. There's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of pain that is caused. So much pain that is caused by these individuals that we're meeting out here that do not understand loyalty. Loyalty is the most important thing. You have to look. This is why the first thing that you have to look at is, are they loyal to themselves? Are they a person that's ethical and moral and loyal to themselves? Do they speak from a place of what they say they're going to do everything in their power to try to attempt it and to do it? Yeah. Yeah, I understand that, Latonya. I understand that. And so in that story, that was hurtful for her, because even when she mentioned that at the conference that I was at, you could hear, the hurt that was in her voice a little bit based upon that. Because imagine that as a mother, that your kids turn against you because you were married to a person that was unfaithful, that was dishonest, that went around and gaslit people and told people all these stories about all these things supposedly that you did, and no one ever came to you and asked you, was it true, or what happened, or nothing. You didn't get any courtesy of anybody coming to you and talking to you and saying, what, is that true? Everybody just believed what the other person said. That was very, very hurtful. I can imagine that was hurtful to her. Think about it. She is a woman. She gave birth to those kids. Why wouldn't that be hurtful? And it's the same thing with the men that I coach. They go through the same thing. It's usually the person that was loyal and that was faithful is the one that goes through suffering also with the kids. I use an example that I talk about in my webinar of a gentleman that I knew that I used to go to church with, and he was married for, I don't know, 15 or 18 years. And, he had been with his spouse, and they were working together and building a business and doing certain things. He ended up catching wind of her cheating. I'm not sure how, because I don't know all the details, because I usually minded my business, but I caught little pieces of it. And then based upon having a conversation with him after the fact and later on, but I was more so just there as a person to listen. And so as he began to share with me all these different things, I talked about it in my webinar. I didn't really know how to help him at that time and at that moment, because the only thing I could do was kind of feel sorry. But that's not helping a person just because you feel sorry for the situation or the condition or the condition that they're in. They're traumatized. I didn't understand that when people are in these positions, their nervous system is jacked up. They're in a state of confusion. They're lost. It's almost like they're walking through the wilderness and they're lost because their heart is actually broken. They've done studies and they can see the scars on your people's hearts based upon physical scars, based upon relationships that they were in, where they invested and gave themselves to people and gave of themselves, and tried to be the better person and tried to be a person of their word and was committed to what they said and said what they meant. But then found out later that the person that they were with was just playing games. It was all a game to them, because they're doing things behind their back. And then there's other people that knew that the things that they were doing behind their back, but that didn't matter, because people don't get involved. They won't say anything. They would rather keep a secret, or they're maybe even part of it. Because a lot of these people, they're involved with people that they know. They're not involved with people that they work with the people. It's someone that they know, they work with, they're at the gym with. It's someone that's around them in their life that they know. And if they're under the category of narcissists, it's your cousins, it's your brother-in-laws, it's everybody around you, pretty much. If they are a true narcissist, it's your sister, it's your wife, it's your husband's wife. I mean, it's everybody that's close and near and dear to you. It won't be someone far, far away. It's going to be someone that's when you find out, you're going to be really, really hurt. But I heard Iyanla Vanzant say one time when she told her story about her ex cheating on her, and when he cheated, it was with one of her best friends, and how hurt she was, and how she was just had the magnifying glass out, but she was, and she kept saying she was, and at some point she had to stop saying that. You know what? That was my best friend, and start saying that. You know what? It don't matter who it was. At this point, it doesn't matter. It does, but it really doesn't. The bottom line is whether it's your best friend or someone that you didn't know, it's still betrayal. It's still hurt. It's still, your heart is ripped. Your heart is torn apart because of trusting a person, because of investing in an individual. Yeah, that's true. That's true, Lataya, because of investing in an individual and giving them loyalty and then returning to you heartbreak and disloyalty, because they haven't trained themselves to be loyal. They don't know what it is to be loyal to another person, a place, or a thing. Appreciate your comments, Latanya. Appreciate you. Thank y'all for taps. If you're in here and you haven't introduced yourself, let me know what state you're tuning in from. H. Johns, I'm kind of curious. Do you follow my page? And Lataya, is that Lataya Aaron K5H? Is that I don't Chicky baby? Is that the one that is that how it would come up? Because I'm trying to see who are actual followers and who are people that aren't, just so I can kind of keep a gauge of who's who, basically. Oh, you're driving. Okay. Yeah, if you don't follow my page, if you can follow it, that way I can I want to be able to send you that lesson. But yeah, either way, I'm gonna go over some of that information. I'm gonna go over that information tomorrow on um compatibility versus chemistry. Yeah, okay, yeah. So I'm verifying because oh, okay, you do? Okay. Is it under private or is it public? Because some of y'all, I think you follow me from a private, follow me from a private place, or I don't know. And I didn't see you, Lataya. That's why I was thinking, man, how does she know when I'm online? But so I guess you have to follow me in order, because I guess you got a notification, Lataya and H Johns, that I was online. Okay. Oh, okay. You get notifications. Okay. So yeah. So you must be under the private area. I can't see who follows me under there's an area that's called private or something like that. I can't see those people. I just popped in your feed. Okay, yeah. Nice to meet you, Chicky baby. Chicky baby. But yeah, we're talking about loyalty in our relationships, and the importance of it. Oh, you're just on YouTube a lot. Okay. So you don't get notifications. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, Chicky baby, that's what we're doing. I was discussing, I've done this lesson for about 3 or 4 days, just talking about loyalty and the importance of it in relationships, and how it affects so many areas, and there's so much damage that's caused by individuals not being loyal. And loyalty is a decision. This is part of how I started this conversation tonight. It's a decision. It's not something where somebody's handcuffing you or making you do it. It's something that you made the decision. Most of us, we make the decision whether we want to talk to somebody, whether we want to start a company, whether we want to start working out, whether we want to start eating certain things. Those are commitments that we make. It's not like somebody standing over top of you and making you do it. And so to me, I think it's so much easier if we don't want to be in a committed relationship, that you just tell people. I have 3 sons, and out of those 3 sons, my one son, who since he was probably 10 or 12, he always said, I'm not going to get married. He said, unless I marry 2 or 3 women. He used to always say that as a kid. I would be like, boy, shut up. Stop saying that stupid, that craziness and so on and so forth. Sure enough, he got 22, 23. He got 3 different girls he's dating. Um, all of them know about each other and so on and so forth. And I'm bringing up that example and telling you some of my business and my family is because by being honest, you're going to find people that are going to put up with whatever you want to do. And yeah, that might be shocking to some people that be like, "Oh, I want to have my person." So he's in like this poly thing or whatever. I don't know. He different strokes for different folks. But the other 2 sons are similar to me. That if I'm in a committed relationship, I'm in that thing, and that's it. Because I don't need a bunch of. It's just too much chaos if you got a bunch of women. I mean, I did that in my. That's part of to me when you're in your 20s, maybe, but when you get a little bit older and wiser, it's just finding a good person that's about taking care of business. That's not about a bunch of nonsense. That's grown enough to be able to take some constructive, advice, and that's willing to listen, and that's working on themselves, and that don't take everything like it's an attack. The people that can listen to each other and that can be reasonable and can be mutually grown enough to not take everything as if it, again, that is not an attack. Um, so yeah, and so I said that example just now because if you're open with people, there's people that are going to be open with you. They're going to tell you where they are and what they stand. I think that whole thing that happened with some of these entertainers and stuff in the lives that they was living, it shows you that. And not that I'm an entertainer. I'm like I'm somebody that's into entertainers, and I don't know. I don't really get into all that stuff. But when you sometimes hear the way these people live, there's people that are willing to do whatever based upon where they are. That's why there's some people that are in poly relationships, and there's some people that are in, regular, you know, regular, monogamous relationships. You know, different strokes for different folks. I don't have no words of what's right or what's wrong. You got to figure out what's right or wrong for you. What do you want? You know, because if you actually go according to certain old. True, true. And I mentioned that, Chicky, is that you have to see if people are loyal to their own morals. I mentioned that because loyalty is a decision. Loyalty is a decision. That's why when people are unfaithful, they are unfaithful because they made a decision to be unfaithful. It has nothing to do with anybody else. It has everything to do with them and morally where they are in that moment. And now, of course, there's times when you could put yourself in a position where, because one of the traps that most people I tell that you got to watch out for is thinking that we are too strong to fall or too strong to fail. So what I, and so what, and I referenced that with not putting yourself in positions where, the temptation could be too much that you could fall into doing something that, because if you're at the wrong place at the wrong time, and that person's looking right and so on and so forth, and you don't know what temptation could come up that could make you fall. And so with being a real person and understanding that all of us have frailties, all of us are human beings, not saying that just because you're married or you're in a committed relationship that you're not someone that's, I mean, you're still alive, you're still a person. And so if you see a really, really attractive person, I mean, and you're in some environment that you should not be, or that you should not have gone to. An example of that is, I owned a building company, a contractor company for a number of years, and also a real estate company. Part of what I did with the construction company when I was married is that I always brought someone with me, especially if I was going in a house and a woman was single. Why would I do that? Some people might say, oh, you're doing too much, and why would you do that? I did it, first of all, out of respect for the person that I was married to at that time. Second reason why I did it is because sometimes, because I was on lives and online, women would call me, and I knew that they called me because they might like me. And so part of them liking me is they needed to get me in their house. And the easiest way for me to get them to get me in their house was they would call me that, oh, I want you to come, your crew to come look at this and to come do that. And so I wanted to be careful. And this is why I'm giving this example, because that's part of the way my dad raised me concerning thinking about being in a relationship and being in a marriage and being committed. That's right, testing your boundaries, because people will test your boundaries. If you're in a relationship, a lot of times that's the person that many people want to go after. There's single men out there right now that they refuse to date another single woman because for them it's so much easier to date another married another man's wife. Because first of all, she's never going to say anything. She's never going to say anything. Why would she say anything? She's not going to say anything. So the chances of them getting caught are not that great. And it sounds, I mean, but no, she's not going to say anything. Why would she? Unless she's just some chaotic, crazy. But most times they won't say anything. I don't know that from personal experience, but it appears that way. What I'll say. Um, but what happens is a lot of times when these guys date these extra women, that's when everything gets uncovered because the side one wants to tell everybody and she wants to be the main one. To me, it's just so much drama. Just tell people what you want from the door. Be honest and be straight, you know. But I appreciate everybody that follows and likes and subscribes and all this stuff. Tomorrow we're going to be on here and I'm going to be getting into a topic that was asked by H. Johns, and it's about compatibility versus chemistry. Hey, Lataya, you can't give up. You got to keep going. Ain't no giving up. I already know, Lataya, you got to keep going. This is where society is, You know, there's nothing new. Everything just keeps circling and going around. It's the way it is, you know. But if you are a person with a good heart, and this is something that I try to end with, and believe that there's other people like you out there, because there is. There is. I coach a lot of different individuals, and part of what I find is that there are a number of good guys out there and good women out there all over. They just ran into other people that weren't. And so now they're heartbroken and trying to go through and trying to figure out this thing called healing, because of making a bad choice. They made a choice based upon someone that they were just attracted to. Thank y'all for the taps, the likes, shares, all the things that you're doing. Thank y'all for anybody that's going to follow the page and that likes the page and subscribes and all those good things. Yeah, yeah, there is. There is. Are you a good person, H. Johns? You're looking for a needle? No, you got to change your wording, Lataya. Stop looking for a needle in the haystack. You got to look for. You got to see the needle in the haystack, or you got to believe it, or you got to make it said that it's something that's actually attainable. You know, I'm telling you, there's good people out here. There's good men. There's good women. You know, and yeah, a lot of them are going through healing right now, and they're going through the process of trying to get themselves together. But there's good people out here, people that are not about playing games. And yeah, people that are grown enough to be honest and tell you what they think. You know, so I appreciate each and every one of y'all for being in here. Like I said, I got on here in the last minute because what I wanted to do is just a basic summary. I said, let me get on there for 15 minutes and do a basic summary of the last couple of days. So then tomorrow night we'll do that. We'll 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. Eastern, like 7:05, somewhere in there. And we'll be on here and we'll be talking about compatibility versus chemistry. And then we'll fall back on this once we're done with that. Thank y'all for being in here. Thank y'all for the likes, the taps, the subscribes, the hit the bell notification, all that stuff, all the stuff. And if you're in here and I haven't met you, let me know what state you're in, but also let me know if there's a topic concerning relationships, relationship trauma that you're interested in. Also, if you're interested, for those that have gone through heartbreak and that you need some type of solution to help you get through your process, I wrote this book. This book was part of my healing journey, and this is a lot of time alone, and a a lot of time I dedicated and put in writing that book. It's the first time I've ever written a book because I come from the building trades background in real estate. And I was just shown that I because I was journaling and writing every day anyway. And then I just started seeing the format of my story. And then as I see my story, I was shown, my how I went through my healing process, and all that is mentioned in the book. I talk in detail of this is why I'm saying if you're tired, if you're ready to stop being in the place of being hurt and repeating this cycle and going through the patterns of over and over again, repeating and not finding the right people, you have to rewire yourself. And part of rewiring yourself is getting new information. Part of getting new information is you got to get something like that book. You got to stay plugged into what we're doing here, like tonight and things like that. You got to find a good coach, which if you need coaching, I can lead you in the right direction as far as the things that you need to do today, and especially for the first 30 days to get you from where you are in this place of maybe pain and confusion and not really knowing what your next steps is, to the place where you can actually start experiencing life again, where you can get back to kind of where you used to be, and you can just find that level of peace and that level of happiness and that level of understanding of what you need to do next. Because again, if you're like me, I did not know what to do next. I'm glad I had a coach that took me by the hand and I could call her on the phone and say, yo, Shan, so on and so forth, X, Y, and Z, ABC. I'm pissed. I'm so confused. I'm very honest. I'm very blunt and honest with people. I tell people what I want. And I told her, I can't even tell you I have the conversation, but I was very blunt. I was like, look, like this, bottom line is you're going to go through times when you're going to need someone that can understand where you're coming from based upon going through the experience. That book was written based upon the experience. It wasn't written based upon somebody else's experience. That book was written based upon my prayers, based upon me meditating, based upon me understanding or getting to a place of understanding why this had to happen. Because one of the questions that most of us ask when we lose somebody or something is, why did this happen? Why did this have to happen? That's a question that many of us ask. Why did this have to happen? Why is this happening? Why are they leave? Why did they cheat? Why did they leave? Why did they? All the questions that we ask, and all those questions generally that we're asking in those time frames, those questions are not giving us clarity. Those questions are clouding our minds. And so, one of the first things that I would try to share with individuals is that you have to shut your mind down. This is why certain meditation and breathing techniques and things that I teach as part of my coaching is essential, because it teaches you how to regulate your nervous system and your mind, and how to get your body back to a place. That's right. That's right. Grounding, like Chicky's talking about. All of these things are important to you getting back to that place where you can start getting back to feeling whole again. Because if you were in a relationship with a toxic individual, your nervous system got jacked up because of all of the walking on eggshells, all of the accusations of things you weren't doing, that you defended, and you trying to make them feel secure, and you defending yourself, and them gaslighting you, telling you that you didn't see something that you saw, and all those things. It messes it. All I'll say is that you need a substantial amount of time to actually heal after you come out of a relationship like that. That's why the worst thing that you could do is get into another one immediately. That's why one of the worst things, yes, of course, you'll have physical needs, but one of the worst things that you could do is get into another one quick. You have to take your time. You have to give yourself time to heal. Because as you heal, you're going to have the things that used to attract me in the past don't no longer attract me. Because I can see the characteristics in a person that I meet new, in a person that I had to heal from. And so when I see those characteristics, I know them. Pain is a great lesson. Hopefully you won't have to go through pain to learn a lesson, but pain is a great lesson. Thank you, Renee. Thank you, H. Johns. Thank you, Chicky Baby. Thank you, Lataya. I appreciate all of you being in here. Thank each and every one of you for your taps, your likes, for subscribing, for following the page. So if you get a chance, follow the page. Go watch some of the videos, like the channel. because again, I am giving away all this. I'm giving away a lot of information um, to try to help people. But if you want to really get on the hot, the you want to save a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of time and money and get yourself to the place that you need to quicker, you're going to want to tie into someone that is already done. Yeah. hmm I understand that, Lataya. You're gonna have to, and I talked about this yesterday. You're going to have to get connected and tied into someone that has already done what you're trying to do if you want to save time and money. If you want to bump your head against the wall and struggle and not have the answers, that's your choice. But I found that I was willing to invest in myself to get the help that I needed. It allowed me to go through the journey so much quicker. You know, it allowed me to go through a lot quicker, especially because I was part of a group coaching session, which I'm not. This isn't coaching. I'm just teaching. I'm just teaching right now. And this is just something, a service that I'm throwing in because I just am. This is what I do. You know, yeah. So I appreciate each and every one of you all for tuning in. Yeah, tomorrow we'll be in here. Um, we'll be in here like 7:15, somewhere in there. Give people a chance to get in. And we'll just have a conversation and we'll talk a little bit about. We'll get into it. We're going to get into it. And I know that you're going to get a lot out of it because we're going to be talking about compatibility versus chemistry. Because most of us, when I studied this and I actually talked about it the first time. No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that means. But compatibility. When you look at compatibility versus chemistry, um, the only thing I would say is healing is serious. Um, H. Johns, because if it's not done, then what happens is this is proven back by science that you're putting yourself in a place that you're going to just continue to keep repeating the same cycles, and and so that's why it's so necessary. It's the type of thing that is absolutely necessary because you know our minds are wired in such a way that our experiences, our subconscious mind um, creates other experiences like our last experiences based upon the emotional element of what happened because your subconscious is a recorder. It records events that take place. When an emotional event takes place, oh, okay, yeah, I understand that. Yeah, 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 I understand that. But yeah, everybody's in different places. It's part of the process. Yeah, everybody's not the same. But so again, like I was saying, the subconscious. Yeah, and the reason why H. Johns, in my opinion, why people are confused is because many people are being coached and taught by people that are still very damaged. And you can tell by the way that they teach that they're still damaged because of all of the bitterness in their messages and in their messaging. Um, and so that's one of the things that I try to suggest to people to be. Yeah, the gender wars, that to me, people that I understand partially why people do it because of course if you're trying to target a certain audience, you go in that direction. But part of the issue with that is when you're classifying a whole group or a whole gender or a whole whatever, you're not going you're going to you're going to miss a lot of things, and so it's not really fair. It's not fair because there's healed males and there's healed females. There's of course there's generally more women that are more prone to be interested in healing and going through that whole process. But I'm finding more and more men are interested in it. They're interested in learning about it and going through the process. because it's not looked at as weakness anymore, because they're understanding that the science and the information behind it, because many times are more logical. So if you give them science and you give them certain information that is backed by certain things that they consider credible, then they feel more comfortable going through that journey or through that process. Yeah, yeah. The some of the individualism is promoting selfishness. And to me, selfishness doesn't have to be promoted, because many individuals that you meet, they're already selfish. But a lot of people that I end up coaching or that I meet that are part of my coaching crews and teams and whatever, a lot of them people have really, really good hearts. And a lot of those people are the type that give and do for other people. And they've done it for years, and they've done it without boundaries and just over an abundance. And so because of that, many of them have to be taught a level of thinking about yourself, because they didn't consider themselves. They were the type that, they were people pleasers. And so I kind of know the prototype of people that I end up helping. They were people pleasers. And so when they're really truly a people pleaser, their whole agenda is about doing everything to make everybody else happy. And so they're not considering themselves. So they're the ones that actually need to learn that. Everybody else, they're most of them other jokers, they already know it because they ain't cared about nobody, you know. And so I appreciate each and every one of you in the conversations, and you know, I'm the type that I share information according to where I am. If you have a different view, that won't offend me, y'all. I'm telling you, because I'm someone that I believe in respecting other people's opinions, because I understand that that's the only way that we can learn from each other. And of course, y'all are texting, so I can't really understand. I'm not really having a actual conversation, and so some of it could be getting lost in translation as far as the text or whatever. But my point is, I appreciate what we're having. I appreciate the conversation, because through it we can all grow, because there's things that you can see, especially, and I said this last night. There's things that I received by having a woman coach that I might not have received having a male coach, because she showed me things and taught me things from a woman's perspective that I needed to see, because, I don't think like a woman. I had a strong father, a strong grandfather, two strong grandfathers, so I had men that raised, well, that were part of the rearing process for me. So I have a very male centric mindset. And so I needed to have her femininity and her voice and her thoughts on things, the emotional part and all of the different things, because I was just logic and this and that and ABC and blah blah blah. And so everything works. The thing that I'm saying, why I'm saying this example, is that everything will work together for your benefit. If you are a person that is really, really serious about figuring things out, things are going to work in your benefit. The right people will show up in your life. They just have to. Well, I'll say that's what I believe, y'all, because that's what happens for me. And I hope, and I believe that it will happen for you too, if that's what you believe. And I feel like I've done the same thing for a lot of people, because the majority of people that I end up coaching are women. I mean, I coach men, but the majority, like, if it would be 89%, it would be 89% women between certain ages. And so I believe that I'm that for them also. I'm a male's perspective. And then I'm the view of a male that is not someone that they can that they can look at and not see that all men aren't the same. I'm not the same as everybody else. Not that I'm saying that I'm a Martian or an alien, but I'm saying that every person is not the same. So you have to meet other people. That's all I'm saying. You have a different opinion of what, H. Johns? Man, appreciate y'all being in here. Y'all have any questions? Thank y'all for the chat. Thank y'all for tapping the screen. Thank y'all for the likes. If you don't follow and subscribe to this page, go follow, go subscribe. Hit that bell notification so that you know when we're on here. We'll be on here tomorrow night at approximately 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And and But you're the one that said you wanted that lesson. If you're not gonna make it, let me know. You gotta let me know if you're not making it, because I'm not, because you're the one that you said you don't want to hold me. What, hold me to do teaching that lesson? That's fine. That's fine. Either way. But either way, I mean, if you go to my page, if you follow me, if you go to my page, you'll see that there's a lesson on there about that. I got a whole series, just 2 or 3 videos on it. Compatibility versus chemistry. So, oh, okay. Okay. All right. All right, y'all. Do you have anybody else have any questions? I appreciate each and every one of y'all for being in here. Appreciate y'all for being in here. Mm. Do you have any questions? Not, I'm going to end there. Good for now. Appreciate you, Lataya. Yeah, you got to get with me. Let me know what you're going to do, Lataya. Yeah, you too, Renee. Appreciate you tuning in. Okay. All right, y'all. Appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. Again, my name is Arnold Alston. And it's like I always say when I end my videos, I believe in you, but you got to believe in yourself. Thanks. Talk to you soon. Have a good night. Be safe if you're driving.